I have no idea what this looks like. And honestly, like, the brighter I make the ring light, the more, like, the harder it is to see because of the glare, so this is probably fine, right? So it is time for my annual What I Read This Year video. So I am doing this a little bit early because I'm busier later in the year. It is the 23rd of December, meaning that there is a chance I will finish a book this year. I don't think I will. I'm going to be pretty busy till the end of the year, so I don't think I will finish a book. But if I do, I will leave it down in the comments and let you know what I thought about it. And also usually in these videos I give you like a pile of all the books. But I'm quite busy today, and honestly taking all the books off my shelf and then putting them all back, like, it's such an ordeal. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to move to the side and show you a photo. To be honest, a lot of the books I read this year were audiobooks, or I don't have them anymore anyway because they're in York or they were library books or whatever. So I wouldn't even have that many to show you, so I'm just not going to do that this year. Hope that's fine. It better be fine because that's what I'm doing. Start with the 3 stars, move my way up to the 5 stars, just a very brief review of all of the books I read, and then I'm going to get into the stats a little bit for this year. So the lowest rating I gave this year was 3 stars. Usually 3 stars means I did not like this. So the way that I usually do it is 1 star is like could not finish this, 2 star is I didn't like it but I also actively had a problem with it, like it was problematic, or like there was actively a reason why I strongly disliked it. 3 stars is just, it just wasn't for me, I just didn't like it. I finished it but it just wasn't really my thing. 4 stars is I enjoyed this, and 5 stars is I really enjoyed this. I would recommend this. So I tend to be quite generous with my ratings, so I think most of them are 4 stars, and I have quite a few 5 stars. That seems to happen every year. Let's start with the 3 stars. So the first one is The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse. Which wasn't really my thing. The Astonishing Adventures of Fanboy and Goth Girl. This was actively bad. I would maybe move this down to 2 stars, but we'll stick with what I've got here. Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist. Again, maybe 2.5 stars. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. I realise this is controversial. Sorry, just wasn't really for me. Suspicious Minds. This had a lot of potential but kind of fell a bit flat. The Little Book of Bob. I would maybe even move this down to 2 stars. I actively disliked a lot of what it said, and a lot of what it said contradicted itself and sort of basically assumed that like you could just make life work for you if you wanted it to, with no like effort and just thinking positively. And yeah. How to Tell If Your Cat Is Plotting to Kill You. This was fun, but again it had like quite a few problematic things in it. Not so much that I gave it like 2 stars, but some things that I just felt were like mildly homophobic, and things like that I think were kind of okay when it came out. I'm not sure how okay they are now, but yeah, it was cute, I guess. And then we have 2 audiobooks. So we have The Five, which honestly I don't remember anything about. I listened to this right at the start of the year. I don't know why I gave it 3 stars, but I did. And 1,000 Ships. I think this was quite a convoluted book, and that I didn't follow quite a lot of it because I felt it jumped around quite a lot and overcomplicated things that I didn't feel it needed to, but maybe you disagree. Maybe I just wasn't listening to it very well. Okay, 4 stars. We have The Knife of Never Letting Go. I actually read this full series this year. Ruin and Rising. I think this was the last book of that series that I read. They got worse as they got on, unfortunately. Come Tell Me How You Live, which I enjoyed, but there was just some tedious bits. Wild About the Girl, again enjoyed, but it's not entirely my vibe. Strange to the Dreamer, I enjoyed, but it was too long. There was a lot of building up to things which I thought were inevitable. Like, I worked it out quite early on. I was like, well, we'll spend a little time building up to this thing which I think is quite obvious, so let's just like get on with it. Stiff. This was excellent. I don't know why I have this in 4 stars. Yeah, looking back I'll put that in 5 stars. Winter, a fantastic conclusion. However, again, I think some bits were drawn out a little bit. The Ask and the Answer. The Titan's Curse, which I think is the only Percy Jackson that I haven't given 5 stars. Moxie, again, I just think I enjoyed it, but I think I might be a little bit young for it, and also in terms of like feminism it was a little bit patronising. I think it's a good introduction, but if you're already like well versed in that area, it might be a bit patronising. Death the Dead and Popular Culture. This was a book I read for my dissertation. And then I have a couple of audiobooks as well. I have High Fidelity. Took me a while to get into it, which is why I only got 4 stars. Midnight in Chernobyl, I only got 4 stars because I didn't understand a lot of the technical things, so a lot of it went over my head. That is why I got 4 stars. The Subtle Knife got 4 stars, as did The Amber Spyglass. Again, I think these got worse as they got through the series. Then we have The Starless Sea, which was a little bit all over the place. How to Build a Girl, which... yeah, honestly, I can't really distinguish between How to Build a Girl and How to Be Famous. They feel like the same book to me. Towards the Night Shift Before Christmas, I enjoyed that quite a lot. I don't know why I only gave it 4 stars, maybe because it wasn't long enough. And White Fragility, and I did enjoy this. It was very informative, but I feel a full review of it would require more than just this video, and also it's quite a difficult book to review without knowing a bit more context, so I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm going to 4 stars. So then we move on to my 5-star reads of the year. The first one is An Absolutely Remarkable Thing. I think this might be my favourite new book that I read this year. It was absolutely remarkable. The original Hitchhiker's Guide radio scripts, of course I gave it 5 stars. What else was I going to give it? Thunderhead, excellent series. If you haven't read the Slice series, you should read it. I'm looking forward to reading the 3rd one. Sea of Monsters, again, a Percy Jackson book. From Here to Eternity, Caitlin Doughty, as is Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. Just love Caitlin Doughty, just love books about death. You might notice the theme. The Battle of the Labyrinth, another Percy Jackson. Spook by Mary Roach, very much enjoyed this. Immediately gave it to my mother to read, even though I got it out of the library, so let's just hope the library doesn't watch this. And then we have some audiobooks. We have The Testaments, which is the sequel to The Handmaid's Tale, which I enjoyed a lot. Northern Lights, I gave the other ones 4 stars. I listened to all the audiobooks this year. The first one was the best one. You, which was excellent. I haven't seen the TV show, but the book was very good. And then The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is the new Hunger Games book. However, it was narrated by the same guy who narrated You, so that really messed with my brain a little bit. You Gotta Get Through This, which is Louis Theroux's autobiography, read by him. It was excellent. How to Be Famous, which I've already mentioned, which I gave 5 stars. Even though my brain's kind of confused with How to Be a Girl, I can't remember which one's the first one and which one's the second one. So that is all that I read and slash listened to, depending on how you define an audiobook this year. So I guess we're going to move on to the stats. Okay, so let's find my reading spreadsheet. I will link this down in the description if you want to have a more in-depth look. I've only got 6% charge on my iPad, so let's hope it lasts that long. So I get this from a YouTube channel called Portal in the Pages, who makes one of these every year. I will link her video to the 2020 spreadsheet down below if you want to use it, but you should keep an eye on her channel. She should be releasing a 2021 spreadsheet at some point as well. So I'm just going to quickly go through the stats from this year. So my reading challenge was to read 40 books, which I, depending on how you class this, I did and I didn't reach that. So I did read 44 books, but that includes audiobooks. That just depends on if you include them or not. I did this year, just for the sake of these stats, I didn't include them on my Goodreads goal. So according to this spreadsheet, I reached my goal, but according to Goodreads, I didn't. But I don't really care that much about the goal. It's just sort of an arbitrary, like, fun thing. I read 9,193 pages. I actually read way more than that because I have to do a lot of academic reading that isn't full books, and I can't really just put articles into this. And I'm also halfway through reading a book at the moment, which I don't think I'm going to finish. I'm reading Heroes by Stephen Fry. But yeah, let's say about 9,193 pages on this, which is an average of 209 pages per book, which is quite low. I think I read more pages this year than I did last year. I might double check that because I read quite a few longer books, so I'm quite surprised that this average is quite low. Check out last year's video to compare because I can't remember. I listened to 17 audiobooks and I spent 183.8 hours listening to audiobooks. The average star rating I gave was 4.1. I would have predicted that. I spent £51.44 on books this year. I bought 11, so I might have bought more books, but I only log books in this that I read this year. So I might have bought more than this, or I might have bought less than this. I might have bought some of those last year and then just logged them on this year. you follow, but that's an average of £4.68 per book, and I saved £93.13 through the use of the library. That's because one of the books I got from the library is like £50 to buy because it is a textbook. So the most books I read this year was October, when I read 6. The least was March, when I read 2. The most pages I read in a month was July, where I read 1,418 pages in July, and the least was March, when I read 244 pages in March. That comes to an average of 8 days per book, and the highest average was, I was reading about 44 pages per day in June, 46 pages per day in July. That was the peak, and the lowest was 8 pages per day in March. It's currently only 10 in December, but that's because I have a book that I'm currently reading. I read 14 fantasy books and 14 non-fiction. That non-fiction has gone up a lot because I prefer to listen to non-fiction than to read it, and also I read some books for my dissertation, which I've vlogged here as well. Most of the page lengths, this is what I think is interesting. So I read one book that was between 800 and 899 pages long, and the highest category was 300 to 399 pages long, where I read 8 books in that category. So I think it's quite interesting that that it comes down to that. So I read 5 hardbacks, 22 paperbacks, 1 ebook, and 17 audiobooks. I'm not there might be 1 or 2 off for these because sometimes like a certain line doesn't work, so if any of these are one off, just ignore me. Most of the books I read came out 2016 to 2019, that's 21 books. 7 came out 2011 to 2015, and 7 came out 2006 to 2010. Most of the books that I read were adult books, 23, 11 YA and 11 children's. I think a lot of the children's were probably coming from Percy Jackson. I read 20 standalone books, 10 series, 6 duologies and 9 trilogies. I would like to get the series, duologies and trilogies ones up a little bit because I'm trying to finish a series that I'm partway through. So we're going to get to about the authors. The author gender is split exactly, 21 for male and 21 for female. I, to my knowledge, didn't read any non-binary authors this year, but again, I did a very cursory search. The chances are that some of these authors are non-binary and either they're not out or I just wasn't able to find that information. All of the books that I read were from Europe or North Africa, and I read 1 person of colour this year. That's not great. It wasn't great last year either. I remember when I had a look at this about halfway through the year, and I looked at the books that I had to read for the rest of the year, and I was looking at them and thinking, how do I get that up? And I went through all of the books that I had like on my shelf to read for the end of the year. So I wasn't really planning on buying any, I was just planning on reading these, and all of them had white authors, and I was like, I want to make this better, but I'm not gonna buy books. So instead I think I'm just gonna focus on like putting books on my wish list. So hopefully next year that will improve a little bit. If any of you guys have any recommendations, then let me know down in the comments. None of them were read in translation. This isn't particularly a thing that I want to change. I think I'm going to focus on reading from more cultures first, and then maybe look at reading in translation. Honestly, just mangas is what I would use to change that. Purchased and gifted, I was 12 books this year were purchased or gifted for me, 2 fiction and 2 sci-fi. Most of them happen in January. That's usually because I get them given to me or I buy. What usually happens is for Christmas and my birthday, which is in January, I wait and see what books I get, and if there's any books I really want to read that year, just after my birthday I will buy them for myself. So I usually get all the books that I'm going to read for the year in January, so that makes sense to me, which means I spent £31.69 on books this year in January, and a couple here and there for the rest of the month, but not many. I bought myself 6 adult books and 7 YA books. 6 of them were from Waterstones, 1 was from Amazon, 8 was a gift, and 3 was from independent. I just use that to mean other. That might mean like The Works or some other bookshop that isn't listed on here. This means that in total I bought 0.92 books a month, and I spent £4.29 on books each month, which is entirely reasonable, and the average cost per book was £4.68, which is pretty good, which shows that I'm buying either second-hand or like cheaper books. Yeah, and then we just have some stats about borrows, which I'm gonna like skim over. £93.13 is what I saved this year. I borrowed 6 books in total. Average savings per book was £15.52. and the average savings per month was £7.76, so I'm actually saving more than I was spending, but a lot of that comes from a book that I read in September, which was £50.98, which was Death, the Dead and Popular Culture, which I got free online from my university, because the author is a lecturer at my university, and would have cost a lot of money to buy new. Yeah, so again, the spreadsheet will then just have all that information. Like I said, it was the raw data, it'll be in like a nice pie chart. But yeah, if you want to check that out, you can check that all out down in the comments, because I will leave a link, and you can also make your own next year if you want to. I always make these just because I think it's interesting. I try not to use them to like actually influence what I'm going to read, in the same way that I'm trying not to let my reading challenge influence what I'm going to read, because I don't want to be like, oh, I've got to read a bunch of short books to reach the challenge, because the amount that I'm reading has definitely gone up, because with university, especially being in third year, where a lot of the stuff that I have to do is like primary research or like very research heavy, I do spend almost all day every day reading. It's just not reading for like a type of reading that I can put in this. It'll be like one chapter from a book, which I can't put towards a goal like this. Well, I guess I could, but it would be very complicated to do like each individual article that I have to read. Like, you know, and I have to make notes on them, so they take a lot longer to read. Like yesterday it took me about 2 hours to read about 4 pages. Which sounds ridiculous, but if you've ever like sifted your way through making notes on a really, really dense article, you'll know the struggle. So yeah, I think the amount of time that I've actually spent reading has gone up this year. I think I'm reading longer books this year than I did last year, but the actual books that I have to finish have gone down. Obviously this was not an average year. I don't think I need to get into that, and I'm not going to, but it's been following the trend of, as university work gets more intense, I read less, which is fine. So yeah, I think that is everything. Let me know if you've read any of these books down in the comments and what you thought. Let me know what your favourite book this year was, and let me know a book that you would like to read in 2021. I think a book I would like to read in 2021 is The Toll by Neil Shusterman. I would like to finish the Scythe series. I hope I get it for Christmas. If I do not, I will buy it for myself. Yeah. I believe that's everything. I don't know when you're seeing this, but right now it's obviously Christmas. I already told you it's the 23rd of December. I'm pre-filming a lot of videos over Christmas, so I think a lot of my videos are going to have a Christmassy theme, but that's fine. If you're watching this in February, it's like a fun throwback to when Christmas was a thing. Cool, I'm gonna go. If you have any requests or questions, then leave it down in the comments. New videos every Wednesday, like, subscribe and all that jazz, and I will see you next week. Bye! Oh.